Hey Kickstart, it's Ethan. It is November 2nd, and this is topic 23 on coming out in school and what that was like. Um, I'm sorry I missed last week's topic. I made a video, but the audio wasn't working, and I couldn't get it to work, so sorry. But it kind of overlaps with this topic because I am going to take a different approach to this because I'm a teacher, and so I'm going to talk about coming out in school, but it's more about now. I wasn't out as trans when I was in school, when I was a student. I came out as gay when I was in high school, and I've kind of talked a little bit before about what that was like, so I won't go into it too much. I was pretty lucky and I had a pretty good experience, but I have come out as trans as a teacher, and so I think that's a pretty unique experience. I know that I've met a couple other trans teachers, but it's not a huge population, obviously. So to start with, I came out officially to everybody, students and all of that, at the beginning of this school year, but I had kind of paved the way by coming out to my administrators and to all the rest of the faculty and staff at the beginning of the summer or the end of last school year. And I did that through, well, alright, first I started with my principal. Actually, that's not true. I had talked to my union rep, I had gotten their support, I had talked to a few of my friends in the building, but the information was still pretty much contained to only a few people before I talked to my principal. And I kind of put that off because it was obviously just a stressful thing. I didn't know how he would take it. He's a nice guy, so I kind of assumed it would go fairly well, but you don't know. With administrators, they often are thinking ahead to the parents they're going to have to deal with, and so, you're not really sure exactly what you're going to get. But I was really lucky. I sat down with my principal and talked to him about it, and he was really supportive. Asked me what he could do to help. Talked immediately to the school social worker, who I had already sat down and talked with. Talked to representatives for the state that could give him more information. He got in contact with another trans teacher who had come out at work. He did his research to try to help me, and he was really supportive. It was really out of support, so I was lucky in that. Then he talked to the superintendent, and I eventually sat down with her. All of this was at the end of last year. I put together a letter that I sent out to the rest of the staff, and I got great response from that. And that was pretty much right before the end of the school year. It was a couple days before the end of the school year. It gave people enough time to say something to me if they wanted to, but it also wasn't a long enough time that it would, be a huge rumor that everyone would be talking about. I did ask that the staff not make it a hugely public thing, although I assumed it would get out after that point. And I know it did. During the summer, I think there were kids who knew, but it certainly was not a majority. So then, I sat down with my administration, and they talked about putting together a letter for the students and the families, basically, of students that I would have or could have. So we did like the 2 grade levels that I teach, and they basically said that it was up to me, that I could see the letter through its creation, and if at any point I decided I would not want it sent out, then that would be okay. And it ended up going out. It was a pretty good letter. It basically, it was a little bit it was all about the fact that they supported me, and it was he painted it, my principal wrote it, and he painted it as this opportunity to live out our mission statement and to show our support for, someone they care about, me. And so it was a nice letter. It wasn't perfect, but it was nice. And so that went out right before the school year, like right before, to not give a ton of time for people to reflect. We got one response in writing that was from somebody who didn't get the letter, and not directly anyway, obviously he had seen it, and didn't have any kids in the school. So though he had some interesting things to say, he didn't really matter because he doesn't have anybody in the school. It made no difference what he thought. So nice for him to go on record, but who cares? And that's kind of how the administration took that. So it was no big deal. And I've really been very lucky. I've had tons of support. All I said to kids at the start of the year, they had read the letter, so I would go through my course expectations, stuff about what the year was going to be, and then I kind of finished up that first day with, okay, you guys all got a letter about me, and they'd all kind of stare at me, and I'd say, well, nod, if you did, and they start nodding, and then I said, okay, well, from my perspective, I don't think it's going to make a big difference in this class, but that's just what I think. Do you guys have anything, you want to say about it, or, anything at all? And for the most part, nobody said anything. They just kind of looked at me like, okay. One kid rose her hand in the first class and asked me, what if I make a mistake? What if I call you the wrong thing? Which was a good question. So I ended up bringing that up to the other people. And I just said, all I want you to do is try, and you're going to make mistakes because it takes a little getting used to. And it's hard for, people who are used to the idea of others transitioning. It still can be a tricky thing getting used to new pronouns and names. So I just told them I hoped that they would try. And I've had a great year so far. Kids have been awesome about it. If one kid says, uses female pronouns, somebody else will correct with male. It's really been awesome. Really positive. Can't really complain. I think the key is that you have to go into the situation with your own confidence, and that's not always easy. It's certainly not easy when you're a student and you're trying to assert your identity. Confidence makes a lot of difference. If people see in you a sense of strength in yourself, then they're usually going to kind of come back with kind of a respect for that. Sometimes. It really depends, I guess, on the situation, where you are, and who the people are involved. But I've found that, and it's easier, I think, for me now than it was when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I was a lot more self-conscious and anxious about what other people thought. And now I'm fairly confident, so it doesn't really matter to me what people think. But yeah, that's kind of it. I've had some great experiences with families who have come to me to say how much they support me. Students who have connected with me because they now think there's something that we have in common, not necessarily about gender, but about identity or body issues or whatever. I've had a number of faculty who you wouldn't necessarily see from afar and say, oh, that's going to be my big ally, but so many people have come up to me to say, how they support me and that they're proud of me and all these, really nice things. So I've had a great experience coming out of school. So I guess that's kind of it. Now, obviously, I haven't started my physical transition, so that will provide a whole host of opportunities for more feedback. I'm sure when I have a voice that's cracking or whatever, I'll get some more interesting interactions with my students, but up until now it's been really good. So that's it for me, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.